Thank you. Good. My name's Matthew Claflin. I'm working with Tom, and I'm talking about the messy side, people. Because I'm not dealing with computers and stats, I don't have lots of nice, pretty graphs like Tom has. As you can see with what I've got up there, it's more like lots of people working together. Everyone has different ideas, different priorities, different values, and it's messy. So, if I'm going to do something like that for setting up an extensive reading program, how would it look? Let's just flick through a few. Here is how the coordinator envisioned it. Kids really wanting to read, piles of books, and this is the facilities they wanted. And here is how the library set it up. Now the extensive reading stuff are probably like bottom right-hand corner underneath everything. Then, here is how the administration supported it. Here is what the more traditional teachers did when they heard about it. Here is how the teachers involved perceived it. An enormous amount of work. How the students initially reacted. By the way, all these are stolen from the internet. Okay? How the students actually found it. How the coordinators found it. How the teachers actually handle it. How the students handle it. They're cheating, if you hadn't noticed. And how the students really need it. Alright. Sitting in a comfortable chair with a nice book they like, which is what we all want them to do in an extensive reading program, in theory. Okay. So, I often feel like when I'm talking about this, I'm talking about reinventing the wheel. There are a lot of extensive reading programs, but what I'm talking about is really a work in progress, and I hope progress and work. I hope we're going forward. What I'm going to do is talk a little bit about the history of the program to give you an idea of what has worked and what hasn't worked with the students and teachers, and how we got to where we are and where we're going is basically what I'm going to be covering. Okay. There are an enormous amount of issues in a large ER program, starting to do with students and then teachers and then the university and money and everything. So there's an awful lot for me to cover. Okay? I'm going to be trying to touch on a few things, and if you do have questions about things, please come and ask me or Amanda or Tom or Sandy at the end. Okay. We started, as Amanda was saying, in 1987 with just the English department. Well, Tom started, I wasn't even there. And Tom was using the SRA kits in class, and they had native speaker literature they read outside of class, which I believe had been brought in on the trolley. Then, in the year 2000, we switched to Accelerate. Well, we started using Accelerated Reader, which is used in American elementary schools, junior high schools, for getting students to read, and it's used quite extensively. Yeah, if you want to know more about the history, go to Amanda Gillis' poster presentation. So someone's saying, wow, since 1987, you must have thousands of books and tests and all sorts of wonderful activities. No. We do have about 250 students in the first AA program, and because the Accelerated Reader program was there, we were very limited. From 2000, we have a 5 times a week intensive program. In the first year, 3 content-based classes and 2 skills classes, integrated skills, and that is where extensive reading was placed as part of that course. In the second year, we had 3 content-based classes, a reading class and a grammar class. And the ER was placed in the content-based area, not the reading class. Why? Well, it comes back to our colleagues who did not want anything to do with it. They were teaching basic translation methods, and to be fair to them, they're doing a lot of other things, but there hasn't been a lot of help that way. That's good and bad. It's good because it means the content and the first year skills, we run the way we want. The Japanese side, I don't want to divide it by nationality, but that's how it's ended up. Stay out of the way and let us do what we want, which is a good thing in a way. Alright, so what are we doing and what have we been doing to get the teachers and the students interested? Well, first of all, we do a lot, oh, that didn't go very nice, to work with teacher communication. Okay, we put all of our classes at the same time in the same building. This is for the English department I'm talking about. If you look at the top there, why is that there? Anyway, it says Accelerated in 250. So you'll be able to see approximately how many students and which program I'm talking about as I go through. So that means this year, for example, we have 9 classes all at the same time. All at the same time. So the teachers end up in the same staff room before the class and the same staff room after class. Okay? We also have notice boards like that in our classroom, which gives the extensive reading information. That's the current, not the old one. Our teachers teach in rotations in the same class, so all the information about who's teaching what rotation where, repeaters. We work very hard to build teams in our teachers. And over the time, most of our teams have been very strong, which has helped. Okay. We work hard to inform the teachers. Because everyone's teaching at the same time, there is a lot of impromptu discussion about the program, about books, about recommending books. We also have regular meetings every semester. After the semester ends, we have meetings. We have material there that's a bit messy. Not only reference material, but also books like Bamford and Day's activities. That's been a bit of a problem. This staff room is accessible to anyone, and we've had 2 copies disappear in a little bit more than a year, so we're having problems with that. Okay, but we do try to provide material for our teachers to talk about. We inform the students, naturally. This is what we've been giving them recently, but we gave them lists of books. We had explanations about what was it for in Japanese, why they're doing it, and the reasoning behind it, and we talked to them a lot about it. Okay. Some students said, oh, it's cutting out the student comments. Oh well. One student said, look, our library and our main teaching rooms are very far away. I can walk it in about 6 minutes. Students with a class will take you 40 minutes just to get them there. So they said, well, the books are so far away, can't we bring some of the books closer? I said, all right. And we have an LL, a language laboratory, which is in the same building as our classrooms. And we said, okay, we brought the books in. We've got some Cambridge ones, Oxford ones, Penguins ones. Problem is, the students can't get in and actually pick up the books. So, how do we handle that? Well, I photocopied the front cover, the back cover, and the first 2 text pages of every book in our program, 400 and something books, and I put it outside so students could browse through. They didn't. So, I thought, okay, well, what happens if I then laminate the same things for all 400 books in our program, make sets so that teachers can take them into the classroom and give a handout to recommend to people. That was a bit of a waste of time, unfortunately. It was most of one spring vacation. Some teachers used it. It was very underutilized. We have redone the program with Tom's new Moodle thing, and I tried to do it again and gave it to a few teachers, and 3 of them sort of took it, oh great, let's go to class and said, oh, I didn't have time for it today. So that was a bit of a waste of time too, unfortunately. Because the people who did use it, and do use it to teach how to choose books, scan through, figure out how many difficult words there are. There are a whole range of ways of using it, but I don't think it's been that successful. Second year courses, those are the content courses, where we had the extensive reading. Students did say to us, but we have a reading class. Why are we doing reading in content when we have a reading class? And we invariably just had to say, well, I don't know. Because we couldn't criticize, and we didn't want to criticize. People have different values, and they didn't value it. So we said, okay, well, if this is a problem, we can bring it into the class a bit more. And we said, all right, well, let's try and get 1 book per course that's related to the content area as part of the extensive reading to help the students, to encourage them to move on. That worked to a certain extent, but sometimes it was difficult to find a book, a decent book, appropriate to the students. And then said, all right, let's try different styles of book reports. Amanda will talk about it probably upstairs, but we do have the students write book reports. That worked to a certain extent. Some teachers set up whole alternate programs. We had an American Studies teacher who, she was an elementary school teacher from the States. She had I helped her buy a whole series of books which were children's literature and youth literature that were American literature. And the students, instead of reading mainly just the extensive reading, they also wrote extensive reading related stuff. That worked for a while, but the students complained about the amount of work. And it was a part-time teacher, she didn't have a lot of support, and she had problems with losing books and things like that. I had something similar in my class too, and again, it wasn't ideal at all. We gave the reading and writing time in class as well. That worked more or less, but wasn't brilliant as well. We also thought, okay, well look, there are lots of really famous books that we can use in English. There are manga in English, there's all sorts of things that have been translated to English. We asked the students, look, if we do this, because we require tests, people can read the Japanese, take the test and pass. What should we do? And the general impression was, well, don't put the books in the program then. Here are some of the comments. It's difficult for me to answer because I read English books if those books were contained in the extensive reading program. But sometimes when I'm busy, I may read Japanese. Very honest answer. Okay, I want to read the book in Japanese. We pass the test by reading Japanese. It isn't useful for us, so I don't think it's a good idea. Okay, I will say now, in general, the students are very positive about reading English. Okay, some I can use the books as teaching material, only inside the building. We thought, okay, let's try that. So, we got classroom sets of manga, English manga, children's readers, and some people also brought in children's books. Several problems with that. First of all was getting a budget for it. Secondly was ordering. Maruzen is not the fastest deliverer in the world, and we probably took 7 months to get all the books together. And then we had the problem where to put it, because we have a teacher's room where lots of people go through and things disappear. So, while we have a few sets and so on, and some teachers do use it, we've gone back to bottom right-hand side. We don't have anywhere for them. Okay. Teaching assistants. We have graduate students. Look, great, wonderful. Let's get them to come in and help supervise our tests and give advice to students and talk to the students, do all sorts of things with them. Maybe it was a personality problem, but the TAs were basically not there, as in they sat and checked their email on computers, and the students weren't even aware there was someone in the room to be asked or to talk to, even though they had these pretty yellow armbands and they were told they were going to be there. And when we went to the Japanese and staff and said, no, look, we've got a problem with this, the Japanese professor who was supervising them, she said, oh, but it's not fair, you shouldn't have TAs doing that sort of work, even though the original application to get a TA said. So there is a problem that we have to deal with there. Other universities I hear have a better job with that, done a better job with that, but we are still trying to solve things. Okay. So accelerated reader is what we were using. There were lots of problems. Not only did, as Tom said, we had problems with the 100 tests maximum that we could write, so there are only 100 readers in there. We also had to install the software on 40 computers every year ourselves. And we had to do the test mid-lunchtime. As Tom said, there was a lot of failing, cheating and cramming at the end. All the students read from the same pool of books, so the high-level students, we divided our classes into 6 levels. They coasted. The low-level students, well, they really struggled. Okay. The library had a reserve section limitation of the number of books we could have in there and the copies for each one. And the library setup was certainly not ideal. In fact, in the reserve section, they spread the books out all through it, and you often had to go say, excuse me, this should be over here, this should be over there. We were not getting a lot of help. We knew that the students needed more graded readers, not just native literature. So we thought about what our goals are. To increase student exposure time to English, to give students materials appropriate to their own levels, with built-in remedial and high-level students. Remedial was very important. And to encourage the reading habit. For us, extensive reading is not just about reading English, it's getting into the habit of reading books. Okay? Which a lot of them don't. From the coordinator's point of view, we had to keep it outside of class. We had lost many of our classes. We have very little control over curriculum. Most of our teachers are part-time and do not have a lot of time.